and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu, tunamaliriza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with EFRIS, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuli ku computer with EFRIS. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URS Kakasa Solutions and now I'm in charge of my business. And you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
That's my little angel Rose. Together with millions of other children, my daughter Rose is assured of learning something new every day. Moses, my husband, just like many other commercial farmers, has his business supported so he can provide for us. When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Acquiring a tin is now easier than ever before with a new interface that is brief, simple, and cuts out all the excess fields from previous applications. All you need is your national ID or driver's license or passports and internet access and you're good to go. No more waiting in long queues as you can now acquire a tin instantly from wherever you are. Remember, it's free. Experience our new and improved modern interface that is user-friendly.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are most welcome to this webinar on the new valuation strategies that Customs Division is taking on We are sorry for starting a little later than the scheduled time, but we are glad that you're here and that you have tuned in. Thank you so much. And we understand out there, or we are always required to have tax that is fair, tax that is uniform, and tax that is transparent to all players in the tax system. Now, this, however, remains not clear to many of the taxpayers out there, and hence there's so many questions that have come up, and the reason why this webinar has been organized to hear from the valuation team, the trade team, to bring us up to speed and to help us understand this. Today in studio, we are joined by a team of experts from Customs Trade Division, the Valuation Unit. I will allow them time to introduce themselves. Lady and gentlemen, you are most welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Isaac Winnie, Acting Supervisor Valuation.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Juliet Vyarhanga, Officer Valuation.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Dr. Achidri Elimeleki, Supervisor Valuation.
Thank you so much. So this team is going to be doing justice and breaking for us what Valuation Unit has in store for us, how they intend to do things different. Now that we know we are dealing with the post-COVID effects, and it's no longer business as usual. We are having changes in the world market, in the business market. The dynamics have changed. So we want to understand. But then before we get there, I would really love to ask one of them to take us through. Let us understand, for the interest of the listeners and the rest of the people that may not know, custom valuation is what we are talking about. What is this custom valuation? What is it, and why is it important anyway?
Thank you, moderator. Customs valuation, in simple terms, is the procedure applied to determine the worth of imported goods in monetary terms. It's the procedure applied to determine the value of imported goods for the purpose of levying ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem taxes are taxes that are assessed as a percentage of the value of the imported goods. Now, customs valuation is carried in accordance with the provisions of Section 122 of the East African Community Customs Management Act and the 4th schedule to the Act.
Why is it important? Why are we even dwelling about it? Why are we discussing it? Why is valuation important in all these aspects of trade?
Customs valuation is very important, first, to collect the correct taxes that are assessed as a percentage of value. If tax is to be assessed as a percentage of value, then we must of necessity determine the correct value of the imported goods. We not only determine the value of imported goods for tax assessment, but also for collecting international trade statistics. We need to know the value of the imported goods for purpose of planning. Customs valuation is also carried out for purpose of determining the origin of imported goods using the value added criterion. Another purpose of customs valuation is to implement value-based restrictions like quotas. If you are to, say, implement quotas set in terms of value of imported goods, then we must of necessity determine the value of the imported goods that are subject to the restrictions. Customs valuation is also done to protect our local industries from unfair competition from imported products. We need to determine the correct value of imported goods so that there is fair competition for the manufactured goods.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Achidri, Supervisor Customs Valuation. was taking us through the importance. Now that you speak about the importance, and then you've defined for us what customs valuation is actually, and it comes to my interest. If when you're doing valuation as the valuation unit, you're determining the value of goods for purposes of levying taxes. How do you do this? Isaac, can you take us through this?
Thank you, moderator. Valuation of goods is based on the WTO Customs Valuation Agreement, which is domesticated in the East African Community Customs Management Act under Section 122 and the 4th Schedule. The Act lists 6 methods of valuation which are supposed to be used sequentially. And the 6 methods are: the first is transaction value, the second is transaction value of identical goods, the third is transaction value of similar goods, the fourth is deductive value method, the fifth is computed value method, and the sixth is fallback. If I could explain briefly on each, transaction value is based on the price actually paid or payable when goods are sold for export to the country of importation, adjusted with paragraph 9 of the 4th Schedule. Method 2 is based on identical goods. It's called transaction value of identical goods, and identical goods are goods which are same in all respects. This method is based on past clearances of goods which are same in all respects. So if transaction value, which is method 1, cannot be used, then we sequentially go to the second method, which is transaction value of identical goods. Now, if we cannot use which is transaction value of similar goods. Similar goods may not be necessarily the same goods, but they have components that can make them be used commercially interchangeable. In this method, we have to look at transactions that were cleared within, at or around the same time, and the commercial levels must be equal to be compared. So the first method, second and third method may be what we call transaction methods, because the first, we look at your documentation, and if we appreciate that the documents represent the actual transaction, then we let your goods go. However, if the transaction fails the test of a transaction value, then that's when we cascade to the second or the third method. The fourth method is deductive value method. This is used at looking at the goods which have similar or identical goods which have already been imported, and you go to where there is an average, average quantity of goods, and we deduct costs and go back to the acceptable cost insurance of freight or cost and insurance. And the fifth method is the computed method. The computed value method is the flip side of deductive value method. Whereas deductive value method, with computed, you have to go to where those goods are manufactured from, and you look at the cost of raw materials and the value addition. The fifth method is fallback method, which allows flexible, going back with, you flex and go back to the first method if you have failed to use method 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. When you go back with minimum flexibility, you can attempt to flex the conditions and use that part. To answer you, Madam Moderator, there are exceptions. There are goods, imported goods, which cannot be valid using the 6 methods of valuation, although sometimes we pick a small leaf like in fallback, because we may use information that is available in the country of importation, which is Uganda. Some of the examples of the exceptions is the used goods or used articles. These goods are not based on the WT, are not valued based on the WTO valuation agreement. We value them based on the East African valuation guideline for used articles. That's where the used motor vehicles fall, although with used motor vehicles, we may pick the second part of fallback, which says you can use information that is available. We tend to identify that information, say you go on a website, but within the country of importation and get that information. Number two of the exceptions is articles or goods that were previously imported and cleared duty-free. These are goods which passed through customs but did not pay taxes because of exemptions. However, exemptions are not transferable. If these goods are sold to second or third parties, then they are supposed to pay taxes. Therefore, when we are valuing them, we don't use the ES pay the local duties. Now, to pay those local duties, we also use the ESC guideline on valuation.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Before I turn to Julie, the next panelist, I would want to welcome once again our viewers that have joined us along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we are discussing the new approach to customs valuation given the post-COVID-19 pandemic. And the moderator today is Basemena Roda, customs valuation officer. And in studio is the supervisor valuation, Winnie Isaac. We have officer valuation, Julie Biarhanga. And then we have the supervisor customs valuation, Dr. Achidri Elmelek. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I would request that in case you have any questions, in case you have any inquiries, you please go to the chat room and post all these questions there. If there is anything that you need this team to know or to answer, please go to the chat room and leave your questions and we'll be sure to answer them. Thank you so much. Back to the panelists. Isaac, Doctor, thank you for the session and taking us through. Now, I will turn to Julie. I have heard Doctor tell us why we are doing valuation. We've had Isaac take us through these methods and exceptions to the methods of valuation. But personally, in the organization and as a taxpayer, I know or I hear of a harmonized database. And when he was speaking about the methods of valuation, I did not hear him mention it anywhere. So I want to, for the interest of clarity to our viewers or our listeners, does this harmonized database exist? Do you know of it? What is it? I want to understand, because I thought it is a method of valuation and yet it is not being mentioned here. So and I know viewers out there are maybe thinking that the way I'm thinking. So I would want to understand, what is this database?
Thank you very much, moderator, for that question. It is true Isaac did not mention the valuation database because it is not a method of valuation. Now, a national valuation database is a risk assessment tool. I want to repeat that. It is a risk assessment tool. It is not a method of valuation. This tool may be used by a customs administration along with other risk tools to assess the potential risk regarding imported goods. Assess potential risk regarding the truth or accuracy of the declared customs values. He has talked about the different methods of valuation, the six of them that are followed sequentially. But you realize that whenever declarations are cleared through the customs system, the system stores that data. So if you have a consignment and it is clear that transaction value method, that data is going to be stored in our system. If you have another that is cleared using method 2, method 3, all those declarations are going to be stored in our system. So with a valuation database, we actually come up with that data that is normally stored in our system, and then we come up with a valuation database. In case we are not able to value these goods using the transaction value method, for instance, identical goods that were previously cleared, and then we are able to see that this particular consignment, this particular good was cleared at this value, and then we can comfortably use that value to clear this consignment that has failed the use of transaction value method. So it is a risk assessment tool. It's not a method of valuation. That's why he didn't mention it as was. And information that is used to develop the National Valuation Data Bank is got from different sources. Okay. The first source is the customs system, like I have already said. Now, in the customs system, we have accepted transaction values. So the system, when we get extraction of data about the accepted transaction values, so we can be able to come up with a national valuation database. Another source is the values previously appraised using the deductive value method that, like he has already said, or values appraised using the computed value method, and also values appraised using the fallback method. All that detail is captured in the system, and we can easily extract it from the system and come up with a national valuation database. And another source is business intelligence websites. We have websites that we go to get information, which can help us to update our valuation database, to review it. And we also have market price quotations, and also the suppliers' price lists. These suppliers' price lists can be online or otherwise. All these help us to get information that can be used to develop a national valuation database. And that database has a prescribed format that we normally follow. So every time we get the information, we have to put it in a certain prescribed format that can be used can be easily used by the various users. Then another source of information for the database is the research. We do research. It can be online research, and we look at the international market. What is research? Market research, domestic markets. We go to the market out there, and we see what is happening in our domestic market. All that research that we carry out helps us to get information that can be used to review the database, that can be used to update the database. So it is a living document. It is always updated regularly.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Julie. So is this database available to the outside people, and it's what they use to do their documents, or it is an internal risk document?
This is an internal risk assessment document.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Julie, for bringing me to light and the viewers that could have had the same thought about the valuation database. And to my knowledge, it is the risk tool that is used internally. Now, the people that do the implementation of the valuation or the doc check the document processing center, what we call DPC. And from my information, or the clients out there, this is, you will hear very many, or some of them already complaining online about DPC values are supposed to be harmonized, and you're telling us, okay, this tax is fair, the tax is transparent, it is uniform, it's applicant to all taxpayers in a uniform way. I need to understand, so if have you interacted with DPC? To what extent has DPC harmonized the application of values, or to be able to make sure that there is uniform treatment for all taxpayers?
Thank you very much, moderator. I will say that to the greatest extent, we have been able to use, to harmonize the values, because we are now able to use one national valuation database. In the document processing center processes declarations for the whole country. Okay. And we have this one document, the valuation database, that is used by DPC. So I can say that to the greatest extent, we have been able to harmonize. However, maybe before I go to that part, we also have the electronic valuation module that is used by the officers in Document Processing Center. Now that valuation module, as we can see, is electronic. So information is available to them on a daily basis as they clear declaration through the system. They can go to the system will be able to show them the declarations that are associated. Now, associated declarations are the ones that have accepted values. The system will do that calculation and show us that these declarations have values that have been accepted. So the officers have this at their disposal every time they are doing the document check. That's why we are saying that to the greatest extent, we have been able to harmonize. However, this is work that is still ongoing. We have not yet reached the desired state. It is work still ongoing, and we have attempts of expanding this national valuation database. We are also going to review and update. Like I have already said, we do it at a within regular periods. So it is a living document. We don't just put it there and we say we have finished. We keep updating this document. So, and engagements like this one that we are having now is an attempt to get views from our clients so that we are able to update our document.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. And to our viewers, once again, thank you for following through. And I am going to pose a question maybe to Dr. Achidri, Supervisor Valuation. Given the pandemic and the change of business, which pushed customs into a paradigm shift really, where you are no longer looking at business as usual, and then maybe are taking on a collaborative strategy of engaging clients or listening from them, coming down to them than going by rule of law. I would want to understand.
Started implementing the new strategy. We have been engaging the stakeholders implemented.
Now, given that, are there issues that you have already identified, and how will you deal with these if they are there? During our engagements, we've identified a number of challenges that the new strategy aims at addressing. The first challenge is we have realized there's low level of knowledge of customs valuation among the stakeholders. I will cite two key areas of the law that the traders or the importers could benefit from. The first is that the importers actually have a right to know how the goods, the value of their goods has been determined. So all they need to do is to write to customs and ask for an explanation in writing of how the value of their goods has been determined. The second area is in situations where there has to be a delay in determining the value of imported goods. We don't need to keep the goods to accumulate storage in the bonded warehouses. So the importer can actually apply to take delivery of goods payable. So if this knowledge was widely available, then we would not be having a lot of challenges of people complaining. During valuation, my goods spent 2 months in the bonded warehouse, and now the storage charge probably is more than the additional tax that we're demanding. So we really want, through our engagements and through webinars like this, for the stakeholders to know that there are provisions that will relieve them from incurring unnecessary charges or storage charges if there is a delay in valuation of imported goods. Now, how do we intend to resolve this challenge or to minimize this challenge? We intend to, already we have started sensitizing the stakeholders. We intend to give refresher trainings to the clearing agents for those that we have trained before.
We also intend to sensitize the traders, textile sector, be it the steel sector, be it the soft drinks sector. The second challenge we identified in our engagements that the stakeholders have is the lack of uniformity in valuation of goods in the document processing center. Here I mean the same goods in the same document processing center are given different values. We are addressing that challenge is that we are regularly reviewing and harmonizing the customs valuation database. So we regularly review and harmonize the national valuation database. Another challenge that the stakeholders face is unpredictable. The same goods in February, this time we're asking for 150 million or 200 million. So they feel our decisions are unpredictable, and therefore it's very difficult for the business people to plan their businesses. And we are going to resolve this challenge by involving the stakeholders as much as possible in our valuation decisions. And we already have organized meetings with the importers in their various sectors to inform them on how we review the valuation database and how we eventually implement or how we use the valuation database as a risk assessment tool. Another challenge the stakeholders have is lack of information, particularly on rare products. There are some products that are rare that they import, and then when the documentation reaches the document processing center, we do not have information. We can go around it by encouraging our importers to provide as much information about their transactions, as much information as possible to customs, because we need them to understand your product very well so that we can be able to appraise the value correctly. Another challenge that our stakeholders have is the knowledge gap that our staff who appraise the value of the goods in the DPC or in the valuation unit have. The knowledge gap mainly is about the knowledge of the products themselves. For you to value a product, you must understand and know what product it is that you're valuing. And sometimes our staff do not know the products they are valuing. And therefore, there's a delay in appraising the value of the product. So again, we are enhancing the capacity of our staff to understand products. We have taken them through, for example, the process of changing from the hot rolled to cold rolled steel. We have taken them through the roofings, rolling mills to understand the steel products. And we're going to go to different sectors and we'll take our staff through the products of the different sectors so that we address the knowledge gap.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor, for projecting the issues that have come from you. We are here to, much as we are discussing a new strategy, as you can hear from our panelists, we are also interested in understanding your pains. We are interested in understanding that exactly you want us to handle or to discuss in regard to valuation. That is why we have a team of experts from the valuation unit, trade division, and a customs department that are speaking to us this morning. Please leave your question in the chat room or the question and answer section, and I will take off time as transparent as possible and making sure that it cuts across to all sectors. With me, the moderator, myself, I am Roger Basemera, and I live in the URS studio this morning. Before I can turn to you, our viewers, or the listeners, and the issues that you would want us to address or the questions, please let them come in. I would want to still engage. I want to engage my colleagues based on what you've talked about, we had Isaac tell us about them to address as well.
Thank you very much, moderator. Yes, it is true that we also have pains. We have challenges as customs that we face when valuing these imported goods. Now, I'm going to talk about them one by one. The first one is falsification of transaction documents. Falsification, because remember, every consignment that comes to our system, we require that the client gives us documents, that the transaction documents, so it has a provision for giving us that amount in words. Then you find that someone has given you an amount in figures which doesn't tally with what is written in. So in valuation, I'll look at this document and I'll be like, is this document originating from a supplier? Because we know there are accepted standards, commercial invoices. So that is one of them for proof of payment, and the client doesn't give you that document. They will just tell you we don't have that document. So the documents they give us are sometimes actually not sufficient in order for us to use them to appraise the transaction value method. Then there's also deliberate refusal to declare or produce documents. This actually causes delays. The document first, the DP, and you're supposed to have that letter of credit. The officer has asked for it, but then you end up telling us that no, I don't have those documents. So you're actually deliberate. Long-sleeved, is it short-sleeved? So I'm talking about a shirt, that is just an example, but there are so many goods that are poorly described. If you look at electronics, someone brings in radios and they will just say radios. 100 cartons, sets of, for example, invoices or 2 sets of documents. He has a set for customs purposes, then he also has a set for his or her business. So you realize that, and when you look at, you realize maybe they have even undercut the value of the items. So we also have that challenge of double invoicing. We also have a challenge of related party transactions or transfer prices. There are companies that are related. Maybe a company is in UK, is in Dubai, but it is related to a company that is in Uganda here. So these companies agree on the prices to extend to their subsidiary companies. And now the challenge is, are those prices affected by this relationship that those two companies have? So, and we realize that in most cases, clients may not give us the companies. Does it affect the price actually paid or payable for these particular goods that are being created? So that is a challenge that we are facing when we are valuing these goods. We also have a challenge of lack of information, like Dr. had already said, lack of information on C. You're charged with the responsibility of doing thorough documentary check. They try as much as possible to look at these documents. Then obviously that is an offense. Then the offense management will come in at that time. We are also doing capacity building for our officers. We do it on a regular basis. Refresher courses, trainings to our officers. Valuation research. That one is done by the valuation unit in trade division intelligence websites that we go into and check real values for these items. Now, these challenges that we have faced affect us as we do our work. They bring about delays. You know, there's this back and forth. The officer asks for documents, then the client may be reluctant to avail those documents. Then we realize that this one is costing. It is costing time, and as we say, time is money. So we ask our clients. Normally, usually action documents. Remember the other thing I talked about that come up, and you wouldn't want to pay penalties. So we are requesting for actual transaction documents, and also avail all the transaction documents at a go, so that we avoid this issue of asking for documents, bring this and let you have those documents with you. So we ask that every time you declare into our system, attach all the transaction documents. This is going to save time. Then also our clients should insist that their suppliers provide the detailed description of goods on the transaction documents. If you're getting electronics from a supplier, tell them to tell us what type of radio on the...
Before I can turn to the audience, I will ask one more question maybe to the panelists, and I will give that to Isaac. I'll let Isaac take that. We want to know, in summary, given what you have told us, audience, and the rest of the panelists, what they have been talking about, paint for us a picture. We want, you see, our topic today being the new valuation strategy, like what strategy, what way of doing things different customs valuation needs to do or is intending to do. In summary, paint for us a picture. What is this strategy? What do you intend to do different from what you've been doing?
Thank you, moderator. As you are aware, COVID has ravaged our economies world over, and many businesses have closed down, others are shutting down. Now, most of the businesses, those which are remaining, are struggling to go e-commerce and digital. Now, what do we have decided to engage stakeholders, especially to understand their needs. For us, we know there is a problem with COVID, but the stakeholders have a lot to say. Now, in some of the engagements, we have come out with problems, and the new approach is going to be as follows. One, we are harmonizing the valuation database. My colleagues have already talked a lot about harmonizing the database, but I'll put a voice. The harmonizing of database just means that you, an importer, when you make a declaration, there is only one value in the guideline that is going to be applied to your product. The habit of having multiple values for the same or similar identical product is coming to an end. But remember that the database is a risk management. After your declaration fails the tests of research, it is research-based valuation. Before we value products, especially products we want to know. So we do value-based research, understand the product, and then give it the correct valuation. Then we have talked about stakeholder meetings, but our new approach focuses on stakeholder involvement. With every valuation decision that we are going to take, we involve our stakeholders. We meet them, talk about their products, suggest what we want to implement, and have their voice included in the decision that is made. Then we are also we have been conducting, but we're also going to conduct benchmarking. We are going to benchmark best practices on how other people, other players, maybe the partner states of the ESC or far beyond, how are they doing it? How are they handling related party transactions? The multinational transfer prices. How are they handling digital business? How are they handling pallet sales? We benchmark best practices and come and apply them here so that we don't cause a pain to our importers. Lastly, we are involved in capacity building, that is training. My colleagues have talked much about it, and this cuts across both our staff and the stakeholders.
Our listeners for staying with us and keeping with us. And please keep with us because we are going to engage now. This is the time where we are going in question and answer session, what we are hearing from you through the chat room. the question and answer, and we'll handle these questions immediately after the commercial break. Thank you. Please keep with us.
Acquiring a tin is now easier than ever before with a new interface that is brief, simple, and cuts out all the excess fields from previous applications. An internet access and you're good to go. No more waiting in long queues, as you can now acquire a tin instantly from wherever. Our new and improved modern interface that is user-friendly.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together. Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
In chess, it's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA visit.
Why would anyone visit URA? Of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa business solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program, and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu, tunamaliriza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with EFRIS, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuli ku computer with EFRIS. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URA's Kakasa solutions and now I'm in charge of my business, and you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Thank you, our viewers and our listeners that are live on the URA TV, and those that are following us on our different social platforms, on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you are, in your offices or wherever you are. Thank you so much for sparing time to listen in. Our topic, once again, that we are having or discussing in studio today is the new valuation strategy, the strategy that the valuation unit is taking and customs in regard to goods, valuation of goods, to be able to engage the clients to collaborate, a valuation officer in Uganda Revenue Authority, Customs Department, and right on my left is Isaac Winyi, Supervisor Valuation Unit, Trade Division under the Customs Department. Next is the lady Julie Biarhanga, an officer in the Valuation Unit of Customs, and the Supervisor in Customs Unit, Dr. Achidri Elmelek. Thank you so much for joining in. Please go on, remember to go on our YouTube channel and subscribe so that you don't miss any of these engagements, and to go joining us. And we have someone did not leave a name. Please leave your names each time you ask the questions. First, let me pose the questions to the panelists. We have a question that is coming from Anonymous, and this will go to Julie. And they're asking, we frequently import rice, but every time we bring the same, we pay a different tax amount. Kindly hit on that. Julie, please take note of the question and you will be answering that. And then we have a question that is coming in from Josephat. Then we have who is taking this? Who is taking a turn on that? The high rocketing prices of commodities in the market justify if this is not a result of unfair valuation by Customs Department. Doctor, you're taking on that. Thank you so much. Then we have scenarios. We have scenarios where values issued by the valuation team are queried by DPC and take long to be resolved. Which team has a final say? Doctor, those are two questions that are coming from Josephat, and I will request that you tackle them. And I can always paraphrase, Josephat of True Line African Limited. And then finally, the question that we are going to take, we will take them in turns. We have a question that is coming from Patrick Deboric, who is saying, yes, my question is the valuation of tires. We have faced challenges with officers querying our values, even when they are way above the customs revised values. But officers reject and give us their own values, which are not based on the customs guide. So in that order, we'll be taking the questions. That question is going to be taken by Isaac. So we'll have Julie, Doctor, and then Isaac speak to us. So as they get to us,
Thank you so much, moderator. About the person who asked about the rice that is frequent document, it is always reviewed. So you realize that if someone is importing from that particular country, so importing your rice.
Thank you, moderator. I'm going to start with the issue of values rejected by DPC. This person says who has the final say. We perform a headquarter function for valuation, and therefore we are the last point to resolve cast in stone. Sometimes we may not have all the information that we have. In the new strategy, the involvement of our stakeholders, the involvement of the DPC in making valuation decisions. If it delays, then it's regrettable, but we try as much as possible to resolve these issues as fast as possible. The second question is about the skyrocketing prices, and the person is asking if it is not an unfair valuation system. I think it's not. Our valuation system have gone actually locally made products. For example, palm oil or the cooking oil, soap. And what happened is Ukraine is one of the largest producers of sunflower oil. And business people are very strategic. If they know that now the supply of sunflower oil on the international market is going to go down, automatically the price of palm oil goes up. And therefore the price of palm oil in Indonesia, in Malaysia has gone up. And this palm oil is the raw material, crude palm oil is the raw material that is used for making soap and that is used for making vegetable oil. And these are the particular commodities whose prices have actually gone up. And the war also has caused a number of challenges. Certain sea routes are blocked, certain airspaces are blocked. That means there's an increase in the cost of transportation. So you can't fly over the airspace of Russia and Ukraine. You have to negotiate and take a longer distance. You can't go through
the database value. His transactions continue being queried. One, Doctor has already answered something relating to that, that sometimes the officers may have information on products that was not incorporated when making the database. And a transaction comes even before they can communicate to valuation headquarters for review. Secondly, when you don't say that as long as I have a database value, I will pass. It's not a method of valuation. Thirdly, the prices of goods keep changing. Currently, freight has gone up, and prices of raw materials continue to go. Prices of rubber, is talking of tires, continue going up. By the time you make your importation, you may find goods have already gone up. Thirdly, about the issue of documentation. Having all documentation does not mean that you will go transaction value. Transaction value is not about documentation. It's about price actually paid or payable. And our assessment officers have to test the price that you have declared. If it fails the test, how do they test the price? Sometimes they make a scientific research by looking at the cost of raw materials. Currently, rubber is going to $4 per kilogram. If now you declare the tire lower than the price of raw material, even if we have that value in the database, you cannot get that appraised at that.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you so much, viewers and our listeners as well, for the questions, and for the panelists for doing justice to those questions. I am going to be reading another set of questions. I know some of them are cutting across and have already been answered, but I also am cognizant of the fact that some viewers join us along the way, so we have to bring them up to speed in some issues. So if you feel we can always address them. However, we have Solomon adjusted, and it is to your right that you seek information, and under the DPC there is a query module where all the information of why it is the value is being adjusted. Thank you so much. So that is done together with the rest. I am going to pose this question to Doctor. Why do officers keep asking for shipper's bill for goods originating from India when they well know we can't access their systems? This causes unnecessary delays. Can they consider TTs? So, Doctor, that's a question that is going to you. And why doesn't, there's a next question. Why doesn't URA, oh, I will take this. That one I'll answer it. We are having this. Julie, good morning to everyone. This is Prep from Sinotrack, the scenario. We are facing the challenge of post-entry assessment. Our clients brought self-adhesive plate sheets classified under 39/1990, and customer paid 10% import duty, and cargo was released and the same was taken into the order to get the landing cost for the customer. The client has used to manufacture half of the products of their customers' orders. After 15 days, we have received now a post-assessment entry. I think this unprinted adhesive rolls kindly help in this issue. How can we convince the client to pay the uprising taxes? and then they say customer wants to appeal against the URA. So I think it's more about the appeal process and the post-assessment. So Julie, kindly take that question on. We are having, this is the repetition of the question. Then we are going to, we have, one question which will go to Isaac. Why doesn't URA share with us, why doesn't URA share with agents the customs value, the harmonized valuation database of other products? I think this is the general good, just like they do for motor vehicle, so that we can capture using those values and we avoid queries and delays in collecting taxes. So as our panelists take on those questions, I have a question that was asked from the team, I think this was again Patrick, who was asking and saying that officers at Malaba reject the values that are given by DPC and again query them back. Following what our panelists already said, some of the decisions that we take are based on the information that is available to us. And between me and you, we know URA or customs has different departments, and sometimes information hits different departments accordingly. So there's information that you could have concealed at the point when your consignment was assessed in DPC, and someone in the field comes across this information. Maybe they come across documents, and maybe they realize that some goods at the point of verification, you had actually pulled them out because they are in the field and they're able to see all this. So once maybe you meet the people at the point of exit and they're like, no, don't exit, because they're trying to match. And if they get information along the way that is not available to us, just like the panel, and please make sure that you handle it with the warehousing management or field service. And where you cannot, we have the appeals process. You can always come to, you can proceed to the next levels of appeal, field service. You have trade, you have commissioner customs, you have up to the level of tax tribunal, or once it doesn't work out. So please use the avenues and avail the right information. Thank you so much, our viewers. I will turn straight to the panelists to take the questions. Where did we start with? We started with Doctor. Please take the turn. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I'll talk about the shipping bill, what they have called shipper's bill. The shipping bill is actually the Indian export entry. It's the entry, the declaration of export value that is made to the Indian customs. Now, there are several reasons why officers insist on the shipping bill. The first and the obvious one is if it is quoted on the bill of lading, then an officer must now be able to know what the content of the shipping bill, because you cannot pass a bill of lading that refers yet to another document whose content you do not know. It is just that you must know the content of the document that is referred to on the one that you're trying to pass. The second is that there is what we call mirror imaging, that the value of the goods declared to Indian customs must mirror the value that is declared to Uganda. So it is an attempt to further verify the truth or accuracy of the documents that are declared. So if you provide us with a shipping bill, and then that helps us to further verify the truth or accuracy of the declaration that you have made for goods coming from India. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Classification. Because he has talked about items being classified in Chapter 39, they paid import duty at 10%, then they have been given post-entry assessment at 25%. Now, by the time post-entry assessment was done, I believe there was information that customs received. Much as the consignment had already been released, they must have received some information and then did the post-entry assessment. But what we encourage is that this is why we are talking about stakeholder involvement. You should be involved. If you're going to have post-entry assessment, you as the client, you should know why you're having this post-entry assessment, because Assessing you from 10% to 25% means that you're going to pay top-up taxes. So you should know the reason why this came about. And this is an issue of classification. If customs is telling you that your item is going to be classified in a code that attracts 25%, and you're not agreeing with customs, there is a unit, that tariff unit under Trade Division of Customs Department. They will be able to advise on this classification because they are very technical as far as classification is concerned. So please don't keep quiet with that. If you don't agree with whoever did the post-entry assessment, and yet we know that it is an issue of classification.
You'll also agree with me that every transaction is unique in its own way. And therefore, different transactions keep changing and our system captures the associated. Now, our database is a risk management tool which cannot replace valuation module or principle. Thirdly, it is prohibited by WTO to use a database, evaluation database, as a replacement of valuation methods. Now, giving out a database will mean that we are sanctioning it to be used as a basis of valuation, which contradicts the WTO principles. Besides, it will also be contradicting the principle of price actually paid or payable, because every transaction must be studied according to its merits, and a decision is taken either to use value of identical or similar. But reference, if you fail to use those, that's when we refer to the database so that you can guide against undervaluation or overvaluation, but not as a replacement of the valuation principle. So it's hard, and unfortunately, dear viewer, we are not sanctioned to give you a database for new articles. However, with old, if we said old, we generate a list based on the guideline from the ESC. That one we can always share, but for new ones, no, because prices keep changing, items become older and the prices change, and every transaction is unique in its own circumstance. We cannot use the database or avail it to you to use it as a replacement of the principle or the method of valuation.
Thank you so much, Bwana Isaac. And Anonymous gets back specifically to you and says, back to valuation of motor vehicles to Bwana Isaac. So that's why I refer to you as Bwana.
I'm present.
Bwana Isaac, why don't we use all methods of valuation when it comes to motor vehicle? This is, then he says, this is an era of communication. We can get maybe technology. We can get barcoded invoices to support our purchases of these vehicles. So that method one can be used again.
Thank you very much,
Anonymous.
Bwana Anonymous. Valuation of motor vehicles is categorized into used and new for this purpose. The new ones, we use transaction value. However, the second one, you'll agree with me that there is no factory that makes new goods. Whether that vehicle or those vehicles were made on one day, they can never be in the same condition. Therefore, they cannot be identical. So, if we cannot use transaction value because the goods are not in the same, the reason for selling is different, then the other two transaction methods cannot work. Because if you can't use transaction value, then identical and similar have no background. But maybe to concretize on that is that used articles do not qualify in all way to be appraised based on transaction value. Transaction value is for goods that are uniform, goods that are standard, but used is not. Even if, let's talk about a Toyota Corona, 2009. Same year, same model, same color. When you put 10 of them together, you'll find the degree of tear and wear makes them different. Then the reason of sale. In some countries, some of these vehicles are prohibited by law. They sell just at a price just to give away. It is not a price that is influenced by demand and supply, as we see. So, my brother, it is not possible to use transaction value on used articles. Our reference is under ESC, where they gave us a guideline to value used articles, including motor vehicles.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much, Doctor. And thank you so much, our dear listeners. In a few minutes, we'll be concluding manifest. I don't know what that means. You could, yeah. When declaring road manifest, they just disappear, thus giving a difference in the total CV, in the total customs value. I think that maybe that is something for in the IC. We'll address that. If it is something that the panelists can address now, they will respond. If not, we'll go deep and go back and address it accordingly. Then I want to understand more. Who are stakeholders? Clarify more on that. Oh, thank you, our listeners. I think we kept saying stakeholder engagement, stakeholders. Who are stakeholders? Julie, who are stakeholders? Maybe you take on that as I pick up the next question. Julie, who are stakeholders? Please bring our listeners and viewers to speed. You've been using that word.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. So all these are our external stakeholders. Then we also have internal stakeholders. Us as URA, our officers as URA, we have always been talking about capacity building. We are doing capacity building for both internal and external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders means that we do refresher courses and trainings to our officers within URA. Then we do trainings and refreshers to our clearing agents, because some of these clearing agents have already undertaken some of these trainings, but we are required to keep on refreshing with them. So all the people that we partner with to do our business, to carry out our mandate as customs, are our stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Julie. This now goes to Doctor. This was Abdu who said, Doctor talked about guarantees on goods pending release, but assessing top up. Please explain more on this. Doctor, you'll give clarity on that. Isaac, do you have a question or something that we pushed that you needed to give clarity on as Doctor gets to answer that?
Didn't.
Okay. So Doctor, please, you can take on those.
Okay. In order to get your goods released before payment of taxes, as we try to assess, determine the value, you are required to provide guarantee. You shouldn't have paid more taxes, then that guarantee will lapse. And if you expect that you are supposed to pay more taxes, then you will pay the additional taxes.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. And I think I'll give the final question, unless another one shows up here as we wind up. Isaac, there's a question that is coming in from Josephat. He says, hello team, how are values for used vehicles which were previously imported by non-tax paying organizations, individuals, referred to tax paying organizations?
Now, the categories of such vehicles are, one, those exempted by or for government purposes, or from load off or dispose of their vehicles. So the treatment of this is through depreciation. You get the value which was approved at first registration, and then you depreciate based on the period of usage. I'm going to read the percentages. Less than 1 year, the depreciation of motor vehicles